making safety personal in the oil and gas extraction business. I'd like to begin by making a declarative statement. Ladies and gentlemen, hope is not a method. I say again, hope is not a method. And what I mean by that is hoping to achieve safety excellence, hoping to eliminate workplace fatalities within our company and within our industry is not a method for achieving that noble cause. We've got to have multiple strategies. And one such strategy that I think is critical to our success for eliminating workplace deaths within our workplace family is making safety personal. I'd like to describe and personally illustrate 4 ways in which we can make safety personal. I'm going to begin with sharing a business case for safety, talking about the cost of injuries, the financial impact, because I want to try to tailor the message to our audience. I think that's the first way we can make safety personal. We have to tailor our safety message to our audience. This room is full of line managers, field supervisors. You are responsible for the purse strings at the rig site, your M&S, the operating performance of that rig, as well as at the back in the office at the district or country level. I want to talk about the cost of injuries and the relationship to downtime, because I know that you will jump through hoops to prevent 3 hours of downtime. I then want to transition to focusing on a critical issue, perhaps the most critical issue facing our industry today, and it's around the top cause of oil and gas fatalities for those who work in the oil and gas extraction business. And then number 3 and 4, the way we make safety personal is by engaging the hearts and the minds of our employees before we engage their hands. This presentation has been broken into 3 parts from the original. This second part will focus on the second and third items in the presentation outline. We want to focus on the critical issues, and we want to engage the minds by sharing relevant data. I want to transition now to the second manner in which we can make safety personal, and I think that is to focus on critical issues. We don't want to lose sight of those critical issues. We don't want that message to get drowned out by the noise of things like hand and finger injuries that make up our greatest frequency type events. So what is the most hazardous position in the oil field? Is it a pressure tester? Is it a casing stabber? Is it a roughneck? Is it a derrickman? Well, the answer is none of the above. It was a trick question. It's in a motor vehicle. It's not a job position. It's a physical position inside of a motor vehicle, whether you're the driver or passenger, whether you're in the front seat or back seat. I have the honor of representing our company and our industry with a group called the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, which is the research arm of the U.S. federal government. And according to their analytical research, motor vehicle fatalities are the #1 cause of death for oil and gas extraction workers. It is the biggest bucket as cause of death in our industry group, all of upstream. 40% of all oil and gas extraction deaths involve motor vehicles. 52% of those motor vehicle deaths involve light vehicles. It's not the large oil field trucks. 79% of those deaths occur on the highways, not on leased roads to and from the location. And the reality is those numbers are getting bigger every year, especially in areas like the Bakken in North Dakota or the Eagle Ford Shale southeast of San Antonio. The motor vehicle deaths are our greatest threat. Here's an example from earlier this year. The headline read something like, "Community Planning Safety Strategy Meeting to discuss work-related motor vehicle fatalities." Why? Because that crew van filled with 7 oil field workers struck a school bus. Both vehicles rolled. 3 of the oil field workers killed, very likely driving while fatigued, after they had been working for more than 24 hours straight through without adequate rest at the location where they had been. Fortunately, none of the children were killed in this incident. But now we had the undivided attention of that community. Why? Because we almost inflicted harm on their most precious children. I said we need to focus on the critical information, the relevant data. The relevant data point that you need to take away from this part of the presentation is 65-1. Some of you are wondering, what the hell is he talking about? 65-1. That's not even a football score. Since January 1, 2001, we have lost one H&P employee to a work-related driving fatality. It was an electrician in Wyoming driving around a curve of a mountain. There was a scenic overlook to the right. He was driving from an electrical parts store to the first rig where he was going to perform repairs per his superintendent's instructions. He did not make that curve around the mountain. In fact, he drove straight through the scenic overlook, through the barrier, and the vehicle plunged 75 feet below into a boulder. The vehicle exploded. His body was burned beyond recognition. He came from a Brady Bunch blended type family. He had children from a previous relationship. She had children from a previous relationship, and they had some children together. Those 6 or 7 children lost their primary financial provider, their father, their hero, their mentor. For that one work-related driving fatality at H&P, as of today, we have lost 65 employees, spouses, and children of all ages to off-duty motor vehicle wrecks, motorcycle accidents, and ATV accidents. So where are we really more at risk? On the rig floor? Driving to and from the rig on days off, to or from the airport, to or from grandma's for Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner. Where are we really more at risk? Unfortunately, over 95% of the motor vehicle deaths have involved H&P employees like yourselves, spouses, and children of all ages who were not buckled in those family vehicles. You guys have been sitting for a long time today, so I'd like to ask you to stand up and kind of stretch it out a little bit. I want you to be alert for the second half of this presentation. Stretch it out, and please do not sit down until given the instruction. All right, please follow this instruction. If you do not wear your seatbelt 100% of the time in your personal vehicles on your days off, please sit down. I'll repeat, if you do not wear your seatbelt 100% of the time in your personal vehicle on your days off, please sit down. It appears to me that maybe a handful sat down. So with that, I'm whipping out my H&P bullshit meter. All right. And right now it's pegged at about 60%. John and Jeff made reference to this morning. For the last 3.5 years, I have been surveying H&P crews that come through the PDC. And by their own admission, 60% of our employees, just like you, admit they do not wear their seatbelt 100% of the time in their personal vehicles on their days off. For those few who sat down, thank you for your honesty and your integrity. But I hope this will be the last day of your life where you will not wear a seatbelt 100% of the time. Please be seated. The first way that an H&P employee demonstrates commitment to safety is not hard hat, safety glasses, fire retardant clothing, and steel-toe boots. The first way that a member of our workplace family demonstrates commitment to safety is by wearing a seatbelt 100% of the time. Anything less is unacceptable. If you don't have that level of commitment, you don't deserve to work for our great company. You don't deserve to work in our great industry. You might want to think about a career change. And I hear the federal government is hiring people to sell health care insurance. Oops, I think I just made safety personal for a few people in the room and may be offended. I will not apologize for actively caring about your safety. And I have just tried to communicate in a very direct way that your greatest personal threat to your personal safety and to your family's future is not working on a rig, it's in a motor vehicle. I want to transition now to my number 3 and number 4, and that's about engaging the hearts and minds. One way I think we can engage the hearts is by sharing little video clips. So here's one I'd like to share. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to embrace life. The first way we can embrace life is by wearing that life belt every time we get into a motor vehicle. Each time I see that video clip, I have 3 reflections. Number 1, that little girl coming out of her chair with those butterfly angel wings on her shoulders. She drops down on one knee, she wraps her arms around Daddy's waist, and she locks those chubby little fingers, and she holds on to him for dear life, because if he is killed in the next moment, she is about to lose her mentor, her tutor who helps her with homework at night, her coach, her prince, at least for another couple of years until she becomes a teenager and falls in love with some classmate from high school. I know I married my high school sweetheart. The second reflection is that young mother coming out of her chair. She throws one arm over his shoulder and the other arm up by his waist, and she locks her fingers and pulls him to her bosom. Gentlemen, that place of warmth, security, and comfort. She holds on for dear life, because if he is killed, she is about to lose her partner, her emotional provider, her teammate, her soulmate, the person with whom she wants to grow old in their twilight years. My third reflection is that glitter flying up out of that wooden bowl. To me, that represents the hopes and the dreams of those individual family members and that family unit being destroyed forever because Daddy chose not to wear a seatbelt 100% of the time in his personal vehicle. When I received that video clip a few years ago from a coworker who thought I would appreciate it, I immediately forwarded it to my wife and my 2 oldest sons that were of driving age. My cover email to them with that video clip read like this: "If you are ever in a car wreck, I hope that I am with you in spirit, like the young mother and the young daughter in this video clip. If you are buckled, I am with you." And now I'm saying it to you, men and women in my workplace, family. If you are ever in a car wreck, I hope that I am with you in spirit, like the young mother and the young daughter in that video clip. If you are buckled, I, Warren Hubler, am with you.